Hey, good morning, everybody. So what I wanted to do was do a short little overview of formatting for your papers. So, which is going to be a big part of this class, getting you guys to understand the formatting for the papers. It's important for you to be able to understand the conventions of academic formatting, and so that's why we're going to be doing it in this class. And really what that means is that in the importance of it, or the reason why we do it, is to so we do have some kind of common understanding of how we're going to cite information, which is really an important part of what we do in the academy, is to show our work, is to prove our point with evidence. But it also kind of shows that we're paying attention to detail and being considerate of other people, like like we did with the those essays about being lied to, or having lied to someone, to give that credit where credit is due. That's a big part of it. And then it's just sometimes it just looks nice to know how a paper is going to be set up. If you go and look at it, you know where the elements of that paper are, so you can, if you're reading somebody else's academic work, that you know exactly where to go look for the information that you need. So that's really what it's all about. Okay, so there are a number of different formatting styles, academic formatting styles, but the two main ones that you're going to see are MLA, the Modern Language Association style, and the APA, which is the American Psychological Association style. Imagine at this point in your education career, you probably have run across MLA, have used MLA at some point, which is good. Probably fewer of you, maybe none of you, have used APA, the American Psychological Association style, and that's okay. However, what I can tell you is that the majority of you will use APA. So while I do want you to format this second paper in MLA style, everybody, I want our third paper is going to be in APA format style. Now here's the big deal. Here's the big difference in the two. There's not a whole lot. The only huge difference anymore for you all is the title page is a little bit different, and it still contains the same kinds of information. And then the way you do your in-text citations are really the only real significant difference. There are some some nitpicky things that happen with your bibliography. In MLA, it's the works cited, and in APA, it's a references list. But really, there's not a whole lot of significant difference in the way you're going to present your information. It's just the specific ways in which they want information presented in your in-text citations. This is the biggest thing. All right, so let's start looking. We're going to look at MLA formatting. So MLA the standard is set up by the Modern Language Association. That's just an organization that decided that they were going to have their formatting, and it got accepted by colleges, universities, and high schools, and all kind of academic writing. The important thing to understand is that MLA is probably the second most widely used after APA, and MLA really is only used in like writing courses, maybe theater, some literature courses, some more kind of literary arts kind of classes. So APA, the American Psychological Association, is going to be used for most of the hard sciences, and so if you look around the majors that you have access to, or the people who are in your courses, the people that the majority are going to be more in the hard sciences, and so you're going to be using APA. But you're going to have to determine that for yourself, and that's one of the activities that I want you to do, is to try to figure that out. All right, so MLA, the most recent version is MLA 8. In the book that you had, the formatting manual, the little seagull, the most recent version in there, I believe, is still MLA 7, well, there may be 8, some aspects of 8, but I'm going to give you the updates to MLA 8 here, the standards. There's not a whole lot of difference between MLA 7 and MLA 8. There are some differences in the new APA, but not MLA. All right, so the real basics are, let's go down the list here. We want, but just go with Times New Roman. All right, so we want, in MLA 8, we want 1 inch margins all the way around. So in the majority of the word processing programs that you're going to use, it's when you open up like a new Word document, for instance, the default is going to be 1 inch margins all the way around. So you can go and check it, double check it, but as long as you're not messing with it, for my class at least, it doesn't do you any good to change the margins anyway, because if you notice, the papers that I do are by word count, not by page length. And so, page length is kind of an arbitrary thing. You can go ahead and set your margins up to 5 inches if you want, but it doesn't matter. You're just going to have a really, really, really long paper until you make your word count. So it really doesn't do you any benefit to change those margins around. Okay, so at the top of your page, you're going to, the first thing that's going to probably grab your attention is what I call the name block. And up there, you're going to have double space. Remember, 12 Times New Roman 12-point font, everything is double space. You're going to have your name, then you're going to have your instructor or your professor's name, however they want to have it. If you want to put Dr. so-and-so, you can just put my Mr. Abel, whatever you want. Last name is fine for me. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a professor, just a teacher here. So my last name or Mr. Abel's fine. Then you're going to have your class, and they want it in this format. So you're going to have English 1100, comma, section, what it's 613, 616, 648, whatever courses you're in. And then below that, they want the date, and they want in MLA, they want this format, the date formatted this way. So the 2-number date. So, well, if it's a 1 number, you just put like 2 February, whatever it is. They want the month spelled out, and then the year, as you see it here, 2021 for this course this year, and no commas, right? So that's all we want. Now in the header, you're gonna go up into the header. You're gonna double click into the header, and you're going to on the right hand side of the header, you're going to, for those of y'all need it, just figure out which one is not the L, and that's the other side. On the right hand side, you're going to have enter your page number and your last name. So there's a function, there's a way to do it, to enter the page number and then your name. So what I'm going to do is have a separate video where I'm going to walk through how to do what buttons you need to click. There are a couple to get your paper formatted. So be on the lookout for that one. It should help you. There's tons of resources out there online. There's already tons of videos, but I'll make one too, just to show you how quick. It only takes about 2 minutes to set your paper up, so it's not worth trying to find some kind of formatting something or other. Just learn how to do it. It takes about 2 minutes to set your paper up. It's really pretty simple. All right, so once you get your name and your page number up in the header, the right hand side of the header, the next thing you're going to do is put your title of your paper in. You might need to wait till the end. The title is centered, and in 1 space down, just immediately after the name, the date in the name block, you're going to hit enter, and you're just going to go down to the next line and put your title in. That'll be centered. And then once your title's in there, you're going to hit enter one more time, and you're going to have an indented space. It's going to look all jumbled up. It's going to look weird. It's not going to look right. I understand that. I don't like that myself. I think it would be nice to have a little bit of space in between, like the title and the first page of your paper and the first paragraph of your paper. That's what MLA wants, so that's what MLA gets, okay? There is, for the title of your paper, there is no bolding. There is no underlining. There's no flashing. There's no putting, a different kind of font or something pretty. It looks really boring and lame. That's the academic way of writing. Just do it, okay? No big deal. There's in the other video that I'll make, I'll show you also in Word particularly, when you start a new paragraph, it'll automatically add an extra half a space. And while you may not be able to notice it, for those of us who do this for a living, I can just look at a paper and see if it has that extra half a space in between paragraphs. And so I'll show you, there's just a little button you got to click to take that extra half a space out. It's no big deal. All right, so this is what it should look like. You should have, if you see here, there's in the header, you're gonna have the last name and the page number. Everything is double spaced, but no extra spaces. And you say it looks kind of boring and lame, but that's just the way it is. No big deal. All right, so yeah, like I said, no extra spaces between paragraphs. And then you're going to, write your paper, however long it's going to be. You're going to have your in-text citations, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a second, but I'm going to spend a little more time on that later about how to do in-text citations in a different video. And then we're going to get down to your works cited list. In MLA, listen to me. Listen to me. I'm going to knock on the floor, stomp on the floor. It is a works cited list. It's not references. It's not bibliography. It's not all the junk I used to study to get this paper done right. It is a works cited list in MLA. So works cited list is your bibliography for an MLA formatted paper. It starts on its own new page. Watch the other video that I'll do, and I'll show you how to use the page break function in order to get down to the top of your own page. You don't have to monkey around with trying to hit enter and get it back to the play. I'll show you how to do it. But anyway, your bibliography in an MLA is a works cited list. It goes at the top of its own page. Works cited will be centered at the top of the page, and then you're going to put your entries in underneath that. There is a special tabbing function that they want. It's called a hanging indent. It's not too hard to do. I can show you how to do it. It's actually really easy. I know a lot of people will want to use EasyBib or lots of different online formatting, citation formatting resources, and those can work, but what I can tell you is they don't always work exactly right, and in fact, oftentimes they're not exactly right, and it's easier just to learn how to do it. You can format a citation in about a minute and a half. It doesn't take very long at all to do it, and it's easier to learn. That's what you'll need, your little Seagull manual or whatever other manual you have. There's a Pocket Keys is another manual that we've used here at ECU in the past. All right, so that's your works cited list, and I'm going to go over the works cited list more in that other video. I'll show you exactly how to do that. All right, in MLA style, all outside evidence must be attributed. You cannot maybe it, and it's so much easier to do it, to do your in-text citations, to give credit to somebody else's work than it is to have to deal with suspicion of plagiarism. Just do the work. It's not too hard, okay? We also want, in MLA, we want active voice, okay? So that means, the girl threw the ball, not the ball was thrown by the girl. And so that's one of the features of MLA is we want that active voice. And from the writing that I've seen you guys do so far this semester, the spring of 2021, you guys are all writing pretty well. There's some slips into passive voice, but not really. You guys are doing pretty good. All right, so there are some downloadable templates for MLA style. You can get them online. It is easier just to do the work yourself. All right, and citation generators, like I said before, they do work, but they're not going to be right all the time. So you might as well just do it yourself. All right. The other thing that I want to kind of highlight is right now is that your best bet is always going to be to use Microsoft Word. Okay, everybody has access to Microsoft Office 365. There's a Word program in there, or because your tuition also pays for, you guys can download all kinds of really cool software, really expensive software to use. I think you can still get like the Photoshop's, the Adobe Suite. You can get Photoshop and all that stuff for, you don't have to pay extra for it. I think that's still the case. But you also get Microsoft Office, which is a really fairly expensive suite of programs to use. So go ahead and download those. And if you don't want to download Microsoft Word onto your computer, if you have one, you can use Microsoft Office 365. It's got the Microsoft Word function in there. And the reason I want to tell you to do that is because trying to format in Google Docs is nearly impossible. It's not going to be right. You can try it, but it's not going to actually render right. There's always going to be something that's going to, when you go and switch it from a Google Docs page to when you try to go save it as a Google Docs page as a Word document, there's something that's going to happen. It's going to be a little screwy. So just go ahead and do it in Word to begin with. if you're using the Apple's Pages program, you're going to probably run into the same thing. You're probably, when you go to render it from a Pages document to a Word document, you're probably going to have some kind of issue with it. So go ahead and just do everything in Microsoft Word. It's just easier to do it that way. Trust me, I like Pages. It's, it's prettier, it's sexier and all that stuff, but it's just, and I know Google Docs are what everybody uses because it saves on its own. You can share it. And all. I got it. It's helpful and useful. But when you're doing academic formatting, just go ahead and use Microsoft Word. Okay. All right. We're going to talk a little bit about in-text citations. So when we do our in-text citations, there's a couple ways that you can do it. So I have an example here. The way that it's usually done is we're going to do like a partial quote. Okay. So we're going to talk more about partial quotes and summaries and paraphrasing later. But if you see here on this example, you'll see in this first paragraph, it says farming's influence on education as a sub bullet here for this paper. What you're going to see are a couple of partial quotes. And what that means is that you don't use the whole quote because when you're citing somebody else's work, you don't want to just smash a whole quote into a paragraph from somebody else's and just leave it. That's called a floating or a ghost or an orphan quote. And because you're not giving any kind of, you're not explaining why that bit of information, why that quote or that partial quote is important. And you can see it here. Here they're doing a much better job. This is the way that you want to do it, where we're gonna, the writer here is starting to write a little bit about, to kind of introduce an idea, and then they're going to take that partial quote, meaning just part of the other author's quote. In this case is Danhoff. They're going to only use part of this Danhoff's quote because if you use the whole thing, it just looks lazy and it looks like you're not doing your own thinking. So in MLA, at the end, we have we call it a parenthetical citation. In the parenthetical citation here is going to be Danhoff and then 69. And I can tell you that this is a book because we include page numbers for books in parenthetical citations. So I know that this person named Danhoff on page 69, you're going to find these exact quotes somewhere. Now when we jump down to this next one, you're going to see this John Lorraine. The difference in here is in the previous sentence, we didn't identify this Danhoff person, so we just put their name, this Danhoff person's last name in the parenthetical citation. In this next one, this is 1825 book, Nature of Reason, blah, 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 Practice of Husbandry, blah, blah, blah. We identified that the author of it was John Lorraine, and so we don't need to put that person's name in the parenthetical citation that comes at the end of the sentence. Okay, so that we know that on page 1 of this book, this John Lorraine's book, we're going to find this partial quote that we see here. And then we're going to continue down. You'll see again here at the bottom that we have on page 75 is still this John Lorraine's information from this John Lorraine authored book, but we're going to see that this other quote is going to come from page 75. And we don't have to add the author's name in again because it's still a continuation. We know that it's still this John Lorraine because we haven't given any indication that it's going to be different, that there's a different author. So we can just go ahead and assume that this is John Lorraine again. So that's kind of what in-text citations would look like. In MLA, the parenthetical citations generally will go at the end of the sentence, okay? And you're going to see, if you notice here, that what you'll see is the parenthetical citation, and then the period goes outside of that last parenthesis, that last parenthetical bracket. That's important because what that's saying is this is the end of this idea. Everything contained in this sentence is part of this idea. So the period or maybe a quotation mark, a question mark, almost never an exclamation point. I mean, academic writing, there's got to be something crazy happening to have an exclamation point in academic writing. So it's almost always going to be a period. All right, so let's look at this. Now we're going to get down to our works cited list. So this is what works cited entries should look like in MLA. I've got them color coded here so that we can kind of parallel what's happening. So in MLA 8, this is what they want to see, and this is kind of standard. In the past, it was different for different types of entries, But in MLA 8, they simplified it for us, which is really helpful and much nicer to do. But this is kind of the hierarchy. And if you don't have all this information, you don't have to have it in here. But we want to have as much of this information as we can find. And I'm going to show you a little bit more about where you find that information in like a scholarly journal in a little bit later in the course. Right now, I just want you to get to understand that there are formatting standards for how you do this. So here we've got this Alakananda Bagchi is the author, is the first one. So you see that it's Bagchi, comma Alakananda is the way that you would do that name. There's more than one author. The Little Seagull manual or your other manuals are going to tell you exactly how to do that, and it's different. I think that it is up to 3 authors. You do last name first and then first name last is the way that works for names, but you need to double check it. I have to double check it every single time. I don't memorize it because I don't want to. I don't have to. That's why I have a reference manual. Next, you're going to have the title of the source, and so the source in this case is the scholarly journal. So it might be a book, it might be a magazine. That might be the source. Or that's the title of the magazine article, or the web page on, the specific web page on a more broad web page. So New York Times might have, that would be the title of the article that's on a New York Times web page. Or if you actually have a physical piece newspaper, that would be the title of the actual article, not the newspaper. Next, the container. So when we think about a container, so the container is that physical repository for all these different things. So if we think about a newspaper, there's a whole bunch of different articles in a newspaper, right, or in a magazine. The container would be the newspaper. So like if you're here in Greenville, it would be the Greenville Daily Reflector, and then the title of the source might be the article that was written on that day. But the container is whatever is that physical repository for all of the other sources. Okay. If there are other contributors, you might have those on there. It's not going to really happen. They should all be. That usually will happen if there's an anthology. So like if it's a big book of like if you're in an English literature class or something like that, you might have an edited volume that was done, and you have a bunch of authors who contributed to an anthology. So that's where you would put the anthologizers' names in there or something like that. All right, so we're gonna see. Okay, so the title of the container here is Tulsa Women's Studies of Literature. Then we're going to get the volume and the number. So generally volume is going to equate to the year, and then the number is in that. So let's say that a journal puts out an edition every month. So there will be 12 in that month. So volume 15. So this is let's just say that this is the 15th year that this Tulsa Studies in Women's Literature has been put out, and number 1, so that would probably be like the January edition or something like that, because it's the number 1 for the first month. Sometimes they go quarterly, sometimes they go every twice a year, something like that. Just depends on whatever it is. Next, we're going to have the publisher, and here there's no publisher. It's just if you had it, you can add it in. Here we need the publication date. If you have that, that's good. And then the other elements. So on this, pages 41 to 50, of course, is where this article is going to be within the container, the Tulsa Women's Studies in Women's Literature container. All right, so that's what they should look like, and you're going to see here that this is hanging indent style, is where the first line is left justified and the other ones are indented in. I will show you how to do that. It's really super simple how to do that. Don't worry too much. All right, there's tons of other resources that you can have. The MLA website, of course, Modern Language Association website, has tons of helpful information that you can use. ECU, the writing program and the writing center have a lot of really good information as well. And also the Purdue, I don't have it listed here, but the Purdue University's online writing lab is called the Purdue OWL, is probably the industry standard for writing about how to format papers. They've got everything up to date, and it's really super user friendly. It's the one I usually go to. And then don't forget that you can always have the Writing Center help you to double check your work, and I'll talk more about the Writing Center later. Anyway, if you guys have any questions about MLA formatting, I'm going to do a little bit more on it. I have another video that I'll do, but this is kind of the a quick overview, although looking at the time hack on here, it's not all that quick, sorry. Let me know if you need any help formatting your papers.